So my name is Deborah Kolb. I'm a speaker and an author. My field is gender negotiation and leadership. So I'm here to talk about some of the aspects of my new book, Negotiating at Work. So the impetus for this book comes from work that I do with women's leadership development programs. And there what I found was that women leaders face a number of challenges, barriers in the workplace. So they might not be on the screen for opportunities, for jobs they want, overseas assignments, and they have to negotiate for opportunities. We know that women are asked to help out, pick up extra work, do what we call invisible work. We know that also can impact women's careers negatively. So one of the things women need to negotiate is to negotiate their value. What we call the ideal worker, the expectation that women are available 24/7, and women need to negotiate a schedule and work that works for them in their life. And so the impetus for this book is about those kinds of negotiations. And those are what I call little n negotiations. They're not contract negotiations where you act as an agent. These are negotiations where you act as a principal. But the challenge is that as opposed to being an agent where you negotiate on behalf of your organization, you're negotiating for yourself. And what are some of the things that happen when you negotiate for yourself? Well, you can get more emotional. It's hard to get distance in the way you do when you're negotiating a contract. It's hard to figure out what you want. There might be consequences. You can't walk away from the table. And one of the major challenges when you negotiate little n negotiations is getting people to negotiate with you. Because it's not structured like it is in a contract negotiation. We meet across the table, we know we can do a contract. You have to create the circumstances for negotiations to occur in little n negotiation. And what I'm going to talk about is a chapter in the book that's about getting negotiations off the ground. One of the challenges is getting people to negotiate with you. And there are two things that we recommend that are important. One is finding ways to make your value visible. People negotiate with you because you have something they want. And if you're not clear about what that is, and they're not clear about that is, there's no incentive to negotiate. So making your value visible is the first. And the second is using your leverage, using the power that you have to get people to the table. So let me start with making your value visible. So you want to think about making your value visible in a currency that matters to the person you're dealing with. So, if you're the kind of person, it's useful to let people know about your value in an ongoing way. So a woman executive at a bank, she says, when I sell a new customer, the CEO cares about that. I send him an email. When I cut some costs, the CFO really cares about that. He doesn't care about the new clients, he cares about costs. I'm going to shoot him an email. So make your value visible in an ongoing way. But it's really important when you actually start a negotiation. So I really want to locate this discussion actually in a longer story. And this is a story about a woman who she's a director of communications in a large manufacturing organization in the Midwest. And she's director of communications, and another department, another unit in the firm, asked her to help with a government contract. They were in danger of losing a big government contract. This company supplies, things for buildings. And they were in danger of losing this client. And so she helped, she saved the client. And she got huge visibility. She presented to the board, personal thank you from the CEO. It was terrific, and she felt great. She really did this, but that wasn't her job. And what happened was this unit kept asking her to keep doing it. She did it in this state, do it in another state, do it in another state. And she loved to do it, and she kept saying yes. But it was a problem. That wasn't her real job. And so she wasn't getting credit for this work. And we don't really know, but it was probably detracting from her performance of her other job. To do two jobs is a challenge. So the first thing that she did is she went to her boss. She wanted this work to be incorporated in her role. So she went to her boss and she tried to make her value visible. She put in terms that he would appreciate how much she had saved the company, saving these clients. It was huge benefit, the role of the CEO, telling her how great she was. And then she tried to cost her contribution. What was it she was actually contributing? And although he was appreciative, he said, you know, the time's not right. So she tried to make her value visible. She didn't get him to the table. So then she started to think about her leverage. And what was her leverage? Well, part of her leverage, it's a concept we use in negotiation called your BATNA, your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. And her BATNA was to stop doing this extra work. If she stops doing this extra work, people start to recognize her value. But of course, that's risky. Can't just do that because people will think you're not a good player, not a good team player. So in the book, we talk about ways to what we call stretch out your BATNA, not to use it as a hammer, but to do it in a very subtle kind of way. So the first thing that she can do is she can talk to this other department, and she can say, you know, I could stop doing this work, it would be better for me, but I'd really rather not. So she lets them know that she has an alternative. Another way you can do it is asking questions. Questions are a great way to increase your leverage. So she can say to this other department, how will you handle this work if I don't do it? And there was somebody who was supposed to be doing this work but wasn't doing the work, so they really didn't have a choice. And then she did what we really think is crucial, is connecting what was good for her, to what was good for the organization. And she starts to talk to this other unit and says, look, we both know that it would be good for me to be handling this work. I do a good job at this work, but I can't keep doing it in the way I'm doing it. And so what happened was, they became her ally. They went to her boss, and they said, this woman's name is Isabel. We really need Isabel to do this work. And she got her boss to the table. They reorganized her job. She was promoted. This legislative work came under her aegis, and she was able to get her boss to the table and to negotiate a deal that was good for her. In this story, there's something interesting that happens. Making your value visible and using your leverage bleed into each other. They're sort of the same in some ways. If she stops doing the work, she's making her value visible. But she's also using her leverage. But she's using it in a way that enables other people to hear it. So in the book, at the end of each one of our chapters, we have a set of tips. And this chapter has just what I've described to you about how you make your value visible, how you use your leverage. We talk a little bit in the chapter about empowering yourself to wanting to do that, using your leverage, and then the role of allies in trying to both help you make your value visible and also increasing your leverage with the person you want to negotiate with.